Oh, finally. Another private. Okay. It's this map. Okay. So let's go for some recon. I'll get over there quickly, I think. I mean, I don't know what to expect. I could be about to be on the receiving end of a chopper rush. Try and get these guys into here. And then I can support them with some infantry, a recon tank. No, a recon tank. Those. Anti-air, yeah. I'll send the cheaper anti-air actually. Just for now. Boris, I suppose similarly, we should probably send some recon very fast up there. And then infantry, I guess. Cheaper to bring in those. That. A tank. A tank. Recon tank for now. He was ready quickly. Expecting a mass chopper spam, perhaps. We'll see. And then the middle here, we'll go with this guy. This guy. Grom. I'm just going to bring in some more Grom. I have the fear that there's going to be a chopper rush. Okay, so from this point forward, I'm going to do a post-match commentary because I just didn't talk enough during this match because I was concentrating so hard. I think that's a problem for me still, is I'm having to concentrate on all the different things that are going on and I'm not used to it. So at the minute, I'm just worried about this potential chopper rush because this person readied up so quickly. And what's going through my head is that I'm not sure how to counter that. Obviously, I'm just waiting for everything to get into position. I'm bringing in some defenses for the base, just in case. And then I see my first chopper. And it's too late for those guys. I should have split them up. So I'm not sure if that's a chopper rush or not. I would have expected it to perhaps come down the middle of the map. But it turns out that it's only the one. And although I think I'm going to lose the ROM, it makes short work of that chopper. This is where it starts to get interesting. So I did say hello to last, but they never responded to me, so I also said good game at the end, and again they didn't say anything back, so hopefully they had a reasonable game. They did play well. So this was an initial rush right down the centre, and I just had my units in the right position. The KTs made pretty short work of all of those units. He's got one bomber, which killed the ROM there, but that's neither here nor there. He's obviously pushed a lot of units this way. And I've been quite lucky in how stuff was positioned. I think if that person had taken their time a bit more and gone around the other side of Fedor through the trees, that wouldn't have gone so well for me, because I think they put most of their forces there. Now what I probably should be thinking is, all their forces are there, I should be moving further up in the other points. A mistake I made in Dmitry is I initially sent my units to the centre of Dmitry. I should have sent them straight to the top. That was my mistake. And the same here, I probably could have moved a little bit further forward straight away. Here I'm just moving bits and pieces around. And I'm not going to pay any attention to them, which is a mistake, because I'm going to lose some of these. But this is more of a just testing the water to see what's there. Paid for that MiG-29, and really that was a mistake, because he has that one bomber that I've seen so far, and he doesn't call it out very often from here on out, so in retrospect I probably shouldn't have bought that. I picked up the anti-tank plane purely to start dealing with the Leclerc and things like that. Now here in the middle is where I've come a bit unstuck, because I didn't push my units up straight away. He's managed to get really close, and therefore his VABs are causing me an issue. Now that jet flew in, was supposed to hit the Leclerc, but I didn't actually give it an order. So in some respects it did kind of help me by destroying one of those VABs. And now I'm thinking about points and capping. Just got this ongoing little fight in the middle. So Last is obviously quite an aggressive player, which, to be honest, is working in their favour. I don't think they realise it, but I'm losing a lot of units. Over here I lost 2 squads from that BTR 50. I'm not sure how I lost them because I wasn't watching. Here I've realised my error of not getting up there fast enough, and I'm trying to pull back my defensive line. My other plane is finally ready again, so I can go in and try and kill that Leclerc. I'm thinking about reinforcing this town, because if he does come around the other side, I'm going to need units in there to stop him. What I do notice here is that he doesn't have a lot of anti-air, because that plane goes in and out without too much issue. And I probably should have used that to my advantage and brought in more planes. At least my little bombers at that point. And you can see me bringing in units up at the side of Boris there, and that was... my thinking was that I could possibly send them around to the back of Boris at some point. And I'm now thinking about what I need to do to reinforce Dmitry and try and hold the line there. Especially now I've taken the point. Now, I do think that the amount of things that Last lost at the start of this, I probably could have pushed Fedor as well and got to the other side of it. Because I'm sure they can't have had that many units in those buildings at that point. This is me just having a few units in base just to defend. I'm just concerned about stuff coming around the back, be it choppers or infantry. I admittedly haven't sent any infantry around the back myself as yet. Wanting to get a look at what this person's got further up. I obviously have very little in the middle there. And that's a little bit of a worry. There is stuff on the way, but it takes a while. And at this point I started thinking about recon, so I can see what's between the points, because as it stands, I've kind of got these huge gaps where they could possibly push through, come around behind me. and cut my supply lines off. I'm also thinking I need more commanders. I need more CVs. Oh, there's a tiger. So that was a good reason to have those Groms and their little vehicle there. So again, I'm needing to effectively waste money on base defense. But equally, it paid off that time. So in case they try that again, it's probably not a bad idea to have something extra there. I was actually expecting an artillery barrage on that position, but it never came. This is where I'm getting a little bit pushy with that tank, which is a mistake. Notice that little vehicle moving along there. I want to get a closer look at that. Again, I don't have a lot in Dimitri, and part of me kind of wishes that I'd put more there, but equally, at this stage, I'm not getting pushed very hard there. That was me losing my little recon tank. Get quick work of that VAB. Again, this is quite a quiet period. I assume that Last was doing the same thing as me and just reinforcing everything. Now, I deliberately haven't watched the replay yet before I recorded this because I still want it from my perspective as I was playing the game. I don't want to know what they're up to. Now, admittedly, this isn't the second game I played. This is actually the fourth game. The other two games were against first lieutenants who are obviously much more experienced than me and pretty much steamrolled me, and they just weren't fun games to watch, so I didn't bother uploading those. Now, I don't know why I did that. I called in the CV tank and put it in the town even though it's not protected, when I should have brought it in behind the T-55 recon tank. I don't know what obsessed me to do that at the time. I do realise eventually. So my base is pretty secure now. It'll take, quite a few choppers to break through that. Me just capping points now. Last is having the same idea, of course. Now I'm starting to think about Dimitri and reinforcing and pushing up that front line. I don't know where Last has a command vehicle in Fedor. Could be infantry, could be something in that back corner. Admittedly, what I could have done is either used bombers or indeed some artillery to start just hitting areas where I know people put CVs. I didn't do that. I was better at spending my cash this time, but I wasn't perfect. Now I'm thinking about, this big road here doesn't have any defences along it, so if they do send choppers around the back, I'll struggle. Especially if I'm using that for reinforcements. And they've capped Boris. And I'm, you know, forgetting about the fact I've got units next to Boris ready to move around. And Last has started using artillery. He killed my little anti-tank units at the far side between Dmitry and Boris. So there's another chopper coming in. It's a scout chopper. It's obviously hunting for my CV. It happened to come in just as some KTs were going past, so it's getting shot at from every side. And I called in a 90 on 90, and I don't know why I called it in there, because what I soon realised is that the Fedor area of the map has no air defence. I mean, Last isn't bringing in many airplanes. There's that one bomber that I've seen once. This is me finally thinking, maybe I can send a chopper around the back. And it's my last one, because I only get 3 of them, and 2 of them died at the start. Now, something just got destroyed there, and I'm not entirely sure what it was. I think it might have been a supply truck. I think it was a supply truck. I didn't realise at the time, but I think it must have been the supply truck that I called in a lot earlier, and it just went up that road. And obviously he's got defensive units in those buildings, which again I should have had control of. I should have rushed that point and put units in there. That's again my mistake. So he's doing another rush on Fedor. And his mistake here is a lack of smoke, I think, because basically I've got a lot of units there, be it anti-tank, infantry, and also the KRKK, which is just spamming grenades. I know it doesn't last long against the infantry. He brings in the bomber again and hits sort of next to my units. He doesn't actually hit the units. But I managed to pull my KTs back over and hit them from the back, and I've just called in a couple of my little bombers to assist with those units. And again, that's made short work of that attack, basically. Now I do something very silly with those KTs. I mean, I know it's not a points-based game, so it doesn't matter if I lose them in terms of destruction, but obviously they're not going to kill an AMX-10, so I don't know why I did that. What I am realising now is, of course, that Last doesn't actually have units, or didn't have units, in that far side of Fedor. So I probably could have pushed some units around there earlier. I'm also realising that Last doesn't have a lot of air defence, and I don't think I exploited that enough. So that was an interesting move from his MX-10. It just comes in really close, and obviously I've got enough units to deal with that quite effectively. I am now fearing the artillery, so I'm moving units around quickly. And I came to the conclusion that the thing I'm missing, even though I'm lacking air defense there, I suddenly decide I'm going to bring in some tanks in case he rushes again. Which probably isn't the wrong thing to do. See that MX-10 coming, so I unload these guys. I unfortunately do lose the KTs. I probably should have stopped them earlier. and sent them around the back of the buildings, because my troops are at no risk from that. The only thing that's a shame is I couldn't fire at it with the spikes because they're out of ammo. So now it's a little bit stagnated. I'm still managing to spend a lot of points, but I'm feeling a little bit better about this game because at least it's a bit more balanced. This is where I finally remember I have units around here that can help. I mean, I have no idea what this guy has in Boris. My scouting has been poor. All I can say is that whatever he's got must be in the buildings or in the forests. But this is the start of quite a sustained push in Dmitry from last. It starts with AMX-10s and artillery, and I finally remember that I have these lovely little 15-point tanks. I think I really underestimated how useful the charioteers would be, and I've called them in too late here. I should have called them in much earlier. Considering they're only 15 points, they would make a very helpful front line for dealing with little vehicles, for scaring off the MX-10, for dealing with things like the Marder 2, for helping put off infantry pushing the line. Now here I'm trying to be clever. I want the Marders to come in really close, and then I want to turn the weapons on the Jakari 90 so that I can destroy them in 1 or 2 hits. You know, I don't want to enter a sustained fight with them. What I fail to realise is that they're going to see my units long before I open fire. So now there's a moment of panic and I'm calling in my bombers to try and deal with those. The ATGM plane takes out 1, and the bomber will help with the others, but I am losing a lot of those Jakari 90. And my spikes, I'm moving them up. I suddenly have this moment of realization of why on earth am I doing that? They will get absolutely slaughtered by that Marder close range. So they probably would have got a shot off, but I decided just to pull them back. So that was a good push from last, and a bad defense from me. I've still failed to move enough units up to stop a push like that. As in, I have nothing in the tree lines to stop them pushing forward. It's not a good place to defend where I've got units, basically. I should have been much further forward. I should have been sort of in the buildings at the bottom of Anna in the middle of the map. So again, I'm just keep calling in my bombers now. I've realised that my Super Puma is finally in position. Probably a bit late in the game to be trying to scout the base, but better than nothing. Utilising the charioteers. They're not bad little units. For 15 points, they dish out a reasonable amount of damage. Certainly fairly effective versus the Marder 2s. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Marder 2s have still killed them, but they're cheaper than the Marder 2s. And he is finally bringing in air defense. He brings in 2 Roland 3s. And I immediately buy my seaplane. He does kill that Hawk, which I'm surprised by, because I thought that Hawk would have been majorly out of range, because it was so far back, but apparently not. So the seaplane comes in. I do let it fire 2 shots. What I failed to do is then let it fire at the other Roland and actually evac it. Maybe that's a good thing, because it does take a single missile at this point. which does it quite a bit of damage. Ideally, I probably should have let it fire all of its missiles and kill both Rolands potentially. So again, I'm trying to push up units in the middle here, and I finally buy some artillery. I'm not fully sure why I'm buying the artillery. I think I'm now thinking, right, I can bombard areas if I know there's a CV there, I suspect, and I think it was also because I thought, well, at least I can bombard the top end of Dmitri and put his units off. Because there is just now a constant stream of units coming through that way. Wasn't watching those Jakari. I mean, I'm holding here, but it's costing me a lot of points to keep holding. And I'm letting points build up a bit too much at this point. I really should be bringing in perhaps some more air defences, or be utilising that MiG-29 to try and take out that bomber. I'm just calling in more and more reinforcements here now to try and push back. Everywhere else is pretty settled, and I'm now just thinking about Boris, and I need to get this command vehicle basically. This is also where I find out there isn't much at the back of Boris. I assume there's a few defensive units to scare me off, but not much else. But again, I haven't watched the replay deliberately, so I don't know what's from their point of view. So some chasseurs there, one squad of, nothing else back here, and there is what I assume is the CV, and immediately it appears, and I just go for it. I want that thing dead. The KRK should help lock it down, and the Jakari should kill it. Jakari are taking fire. But at that point, last surrenders. And I did say, you know, good game, well played. They didn't respond, sadly. I was a little bit confused about exactly what happened, but I think they just surrendered looking back at the video. I don't believe that last would have lost the game necessarily, even if I had destroyed that one CV. They were doing quite well at holding me back elsewhere. I actually think they were quite a good player, and we were quite evenly matched. So just before I finish the video completely, I wanted to pop back into the deck screen, because I have made a couple of little changes based on my own feelings and suggestions from other people, including Grigory. So the first thing I've done is switched out the command infantry to the Polish ones with the chopper, the skull. That's because it is tiny and much harder to see. I've also added the Groms in the Promet to the deck because I wanted some man pads in there, and the addition of the Promet, which has a lovely ZU-23-2 with 2,000 rounds, is very, very beneficial. It's good for taking out choppers, it's good for taking out stuff on the ground, infantry and things, so it's a nice little unit to have. Then I've also added the Napalm launcher, the Rack 89, because that was used against me in my first game and it was quite annoying if nothing else, but I just feel like that could be quite beneficial when you're dealing with a lot of infantry in towns if you have a couple of those spamming a lot of missiles. Tanks, it's just the same. Recon, I've added the BMP 1KT just because it's got that Bushmaster 2. I'm keeping the tanks as is. Vehicles I've removed completely, just so I can use the points elsewhere. Helicopters just the same. And air, I've just removed that extra fighter because honestly I've not as yet needed the fighters very much. The MiG-29s are sufficient. They're mean MiGs for a reason. I don't think I've ever needed to have that extra one in there. I also considered switching out for the 28 because it's a very big bomb, but in the end I decided to stick with the Hawks, and I'm happy with that decision for the moment. So that's all the changes I'd made to the deck. Obviously, should there be any more changes, I will do that as I play more ranked games and add them at the end like this. So that was my first ranked win. Comment down below, what do you think of the deck now? What do you think of the gameplay itself? Is there anything you would have done differently? As always, thanks very much for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you all soon for another video.